the most critical aspect of data is around privacy, making sure that the right people get access to the right data. We started with Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini, making sure that engineering cannot see salary data or IT cannot see M&A acquisition and so on and so forth. This problem is not really a Google or Microsoft problems because Google and Microsoft does respect the permission on the file, but the permission on the file on the documents are incorrect in the first place. Then even if all the technology in Google and Microsoft can respect that, it's not going to work.
I'm Jake Aaron Villarreal, born and raised in Silicon Valley, and here to take you behind the scenes to share what it's like to be a startup founder, the journey they're on, the problems they face, the product they build, in an effort to make our lives better. I'm excited to have with us today James Pham, co-founder and CEO of Opsin. James, welcome to the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Jake.
Well, I'm excited to have you. James leads Opsin, which safeguards enterprise data in GenAI tools like Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini. An MIT alum, he taught advanced ML, led AI at Abnormal Security, and explored decentralized AI. Passionate about impactful AI solutions, he brings deep expertise in machine learning and security. So before we jump in here, James, where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining you from San Jose, California. This is where we are based out of.
Hundreds of AI startups are launching every month, battling to build their founding teams. As a leader, your job is to get results. When it comes to hiring, that's where it gets tough. So you go out and you try a recruitment firm, but they don't understand your story. They're off target, and when they send you candidates, it's a waste of time. We believe you should never have your time wasted. That's why we launched Match Relevant, because your story is more than just an open role. It's your founder's journey, the problem you're solving, the product you're building, and why it matters. When we work with companies, we make sure we understand your whole story. So when we go out and do a search, we're on target, it's worth their time, they're interested, and more importantly, it's worth yours. And when it comes to hiring engineers, we work to make sure we get it right by deploying a team of seasoned CTOs that have built some of Silicon Valley's best companies. They can collaborate with you in the technical interviewing process. They can be a sounding board, or they can run it for you. When it comes to building teams, there's no time to waste. Let's make it count. If you have a role that needs to be filled, book a time with a hiring guide at matchrelevant.com. and learn how we do it. Oh, great. Well, I love that area. I'm from San Jose myself and always love to get back there and talk to companies that we work with and just in general, the vibe of innovation happening there. We'll talk a little bit about you before we jump into your company. Can you share a little bit about your origin story? Where are you from originally and when did you come to the US and really what inspired you to come here?
Yeah, so I'm from Vietnam originally. I was actually a chemistry medalist in high school, and then after that, I went to South Korea for my engineering degree. I finished my degree in 3 years, and then after that, I moved to Singapore, worked there in 2 years. And then, at that time, I really wanted to work in technology, and there's no better place than in the US. So that's where I started applying for graduate school in the US, and I went to MIT in Boston, stayed there for 2 years, did my master's degree, and moved to Silicon Valley about 6 years ago. And I've been in Silicon Valley ever since. It's the best place to innovate and start a company.
Yeah, really cool. I want to go back to what you said, chemistry medalist. What exactly is that?
That means that I compete nationally in terms of chemistry. I was really good at chemistry and competed provincial level. I was first. I was a gold medal in provincial level. I was silver medals in national level. So I compete a lot in chemistry. So I was very deep in chemistry at that time.
Wow. And what was the transition from chemistry to technology?
So when I first got to South Korea at KAIST, which is Korea Advanced Institute of Technology, which is #1 engineering school in Korea and probably #2 or 3 in Asia. So when I got there, the first year they allow us to explore different disciplines, and I just got really hooked with engineering. Right, like it's so amazing that you can apply science into make things into reality, and that's how I decided to pursue engineering degrees instead of chemistry degrees. And one thing led to another, and I'm working on technology and software engineering my full time now. So
yeah, really cool. Well, you were at MIT, which obviously is one of the best technology companies globally and certainly in the US. What was your experience like there? And looked like you were teaching. Is that correct?
Yeah, so my experience there was wonderful. I got to interact with some of the smartest people in the world, professors wise, as well as my classmates wise. And more importantly, they are very humble, right? If you go to MIT, you see the vibe, which is very chill. Everyone is so casual and not so polished. And, that community building is very strong at MIT. Even now, after like 6 years after MIT, I still hang out with a lot of community events from MIT. So that is about experience at MIT, but of course, there's a lot of stress around that as well. Just so that a lot of my classmates are very successful. So it's a little bit of peer pressure that everyone has on themselves. But other than that, it has been a wonderful experience at MIT.
Yeah, really cool. Well, when we talk to our guests here that come on, we talk about what problem are you solving in the world today that's using technology, applying to it. AI is really everywhere currently, and it's being developed, it's being implemented. Walk us through the problem you saw that inspired you to start Opsin.
Yeah. So the problem that we're solving is to enable enterprises to adopt GenAI safely. The most important thing when it comes to GenAI or any machine learning system is around data. The most critical aspect of data is around privacy, making sure that the right people get access to the right data. So that's the problem that we're solving. We started with Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini and making sure that entering cannot see salary data or IT cannot see M&A acquisition and so on and so forth. And so that's the number one challenges that prevent enterprise from adopt Gen AI safely. In fact, Gartner has a report saying that 70% of enterprises are not adopting Gen AI because of data security concerns. And that's the problem that we're tackling. And probably the other 30% don't know that they have a problem yet, but they will. So,
Yeah, I hear you. So, just for those that aren't very knowledgeable in Gen AI, walk us through an enterprise. So, you have a big company, say healthcare or finance. How would they apply Gen AI in their company? Would it be based on each maybe division or department? And then across the enterprise, everyone has access to it, but not necessarily always needed to have access to the data. Like, try walk me through a little bit more about specifically how it's solving that problem there and how Gen AI is really implemented in these large enterprises.
yeah. So, in a lot of these enterprises, there have been a surge in adoption of tools like Microsoft Copilot, for example. Microsoft been pushing it heavily. So one of our healthcare customers, for example, they started rolling out about 300 licenses to their team. So what they usually do is they initially they grant some licenses to certain portion of their users to test out the return on investment as well as to understand the data security aspect of it. And then once that's successful, so that's usually phase one. And then phase two, they will roll out to maybe 50% of the company. And then they will gradually roll out to broader organizations. And a lot of time, what we see the most important use cases for enterprise customers and employees is around having Gen AI to assist knowledge workers in achieving higher productivities. So what that means is that, for example, in today's podcast, for example, we could just use a Gen AI like Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini to help you draft like a agenda, talking points, or it can spin up like entire slide for you, or it can edit, your Excel. So it's more like an assistant for you, rather than completely replace the workers. And a lot of people see values in that. The other use case that we see a lot of enterprise are adopting Gen AI is around meeting summarizations, as well as generating marketing materials for their customers and clients. So that's the use case, right? So I talk about one is the phases that they go through, and then two is around the use cases that I see enterprises are using Gen AI tools to adopt.
Got it. That's great. So within a company, you might be in finance and you want to use Gen AI for purposes of your department. But if you're in sales, you might not necessarily need access to the financials. And does your product help protect or segment what data is being accessible or viewable amongst employees, departments, that kind of deal?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, you kind of summarize it correctly, which is that if you're in sales, you probably don't need to see other salespeople commissions, for example.
Yeah.
It's a very sensitive topic. And if you are in sales, probably you should not get access to potential merger and acquisition that your company is going through. But for example, if you're in finance, getting access to financial documents is probably required for you to do your job. And let's say if you are in HR, then seeing people's salary is an essential part of it, right? Like you have to promote people, appraise their salary and stuff like that. So it depends on who you are. The information that you get access to will be restricted based on that, and it's just a very fundamental uh, ask from enterprises in terms of the data privacies. The new things with GenAI is that GenAI just expose all the data governance issues that enterprises have, right? So this is data governance is a decade old problem for enterprises, but what GenAI changed is that now with GenAI, when you turn it on, it gets access to all of the enterprise's data, and a lot of those are overshared in terms of permission. So, for example,
Oh,
you might set a document as a public document without knowing it. I get share a document that you don't get access to. So in the past, you need to know the right location of the file. You need to know the right Excel sheet of the file. You need to know the right paragraph to see it. But now with the invent of GenAI, you can just ask question about it. Everything just like one question away, right? So
right.
good energy from one of our customers that in the past sensitive data is like a needle in a haystack. It takes you a long time to find it, but now with GenAI, all the needle are lined up in a row, so you can just check it. So
I like how you explain that. Why is this important to you?
it is important to me because we can really adopt GenAI without respecting privacy and permissions. That's the fundamental request or fundamental features of GenAI that we need to have. Without it, GenAI cannot survive. Imagine Jake getting access to all the personal information from James and somebody else. That would be a mess in terms of personal privacy and freedom. And so the way that I see that it is that every new invention of technology, initial rollout will be very rough, but as it progress, it needs to get better and better. And this is one of the biggest gap when it comes to Gen AI, which is around data privacy, data permission, making sure the right people get access to the right data. And so from outside, from Opsin, what we are doing here is try to enable the human race to adopt Gen AI securely. And the only way to do that to increase the adoption of Gen AI and helping us human in general is to make sure that they get a secure Gen AI system that they can rely on and it can deliver all the benefits that it promised to. But without security, that will not happen. It's the same thing with the cloud as well.
You look at companies like Microsoft and Google. Have they not built this sort of security or application into their platform already, or is this something that they haven't focused on quite yet?
So the good thing is about Microsoft and Google is that there are basic level of hygiene that they do. As with every cloud providers, they will do a little bit of everything, and and they do enough so that they can sell the products. But the issue here is that this problem is not really a Google or Microsoft problems because Google and Microsoft does respect the permission on the file. But if the permission on the file on the documents are incorrect in the first place, then even if all the technology in Google and Microsoft can respect that, it's not going to work, right? Because this is more of the end user problems, which is the data governance problem. It's a decades old problem.
Hmm.
It's not a Microsoft problem. It's not a Google problem. It's a data governance end user problem. And so that's what we are solving for in terms of helping them to be aware of uh, what are the issues, how do you remediate the risk, how do you make sure that right people get access to the right data and get alerted when something incorrect in terms of permissions.
Got it. Who are you selling to? Who cares about this within a company?
We are selling to chief information officer and chief information security officer. So those are two personas that usually care about this. Chief information officer, because usually they are the one who spearhead GenAI initiatives.
Hmm.
They would be the one who roll out Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, and so on. So all the GenAI tools. But when they roll it out, they will find out that there is data governance problem. Like 2 weeks ago, I talked with the customers. They have a payroll data leak. So a sales team member see commission of everyone in that team.
Oh,
Yeah, and that was not good. The other customers actually got leaked their upcoming M&A company, which is like super sensitive informations. So the CIO, because they're rolling out that, and then the other persona we're selling to is chief information security officers. So the chief information security officers is mostly concerned around data security, and when all these Gen AI tools roll out, they start seeing a lot of sensitive information being floating around. So that's where we come in and help. So those are the two personas that we help.
got it. Very cool. As any startup coming into market with a newer product, the challenge is always just getting the conversations going with the buyer. What's been a strategy that's worked for you to get in front of the customers, to explore your product, to see a pilot of it, to learn more about it?
So what worked well for me is that I'm very analytical. So I'm an engineer by training, and I still do a lot of coding to do data analysis in Python. What worked out for me is that I test out different channels. I test out LinkedIn, meeting in person, and so on and so forth. And I analyze like who are the person that I'm talking to, what is the title, what industry, what's the company size, and so on. And I produce like, okay, this is the target personas that we should be looking at. And what worked out really well for me is based on that result, I narrow down, these are the personas that I'm reaching out to. And if I reach out to these exact personas, my conversion rate is about 40%,
Oh, wow. That's great.
because I know that if they meet these criteria, they are going to have problems. So what worked out really well for me is just the same way that I approach engineering, which is around like using very data driven approach and optimize for that. And that's how I got a lot of meetings from using LinkedIn, but also like meeting in person, because analyze a lot of these things and make it a more data driven approach here.
Yeah, really cool. How does Opsin approach to data security differ from traditional data loss prevention or security measures in the context of generative AI?
Yeah, the way that we differentiate from traditional data loss prevention is we not just look at the file or the content itself, but we also look at what is the prompt that they're using to interact with Copilot or GenAI system, and who are other users. So let's say that check is in HR, like should he get access to financial documents or not, right? So the way that we differentiate is that we use a lot more data than traditional data loss prevention to achieve higher accuracies. And then the second thing is, which is very unique to GenAI, is that we have a pen testing bot that
Hmm.
go and interact with Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini and to see like what sensitive information that we can extract from. So data loss prevention, they're gonna scan your entire environment. So let's say if you have like 6 or 10,000 SharePoint site and you have like let's say 50 or like 20 terabyte of data, it's gonna take you like 6 or 7 months to like completely map out everything, and it will produce like probably one of our customers said that they produce like 30 pages of document that you need to go and fix. And I
Hmm.
was like, you're gonna need a full-time person just to go and fix these things. And then by the time you fix it, then more document that got generated. Then that person's job is just go around and kind of fixing stuff and asking people like, hey, do you really need to make this file public and so on. So that's how we differentiate in terms of one, high accuracy, and we then traditional data loss prevention. Two, we're using a pen testing bot to tackle top risk instead of like going through the entire environment and produce
Hmm.
like a 30 pages long of things that you need to do. But rather than that, you just focus on the top risk AI specifically, and you go and tackle these risks instead of like going and do like 30 pages of reports.
Wow. If your product is does what it sounds like it does, which is really cool in terms of data security, what's the implementation of it? Does it take months, weeks, days? Like, is it dependent on the size of the company and the enterprise, the data amount? What's a typical implementation look like?
It's very easy. So basically, what we need is we need an API key from your Microsoft tenant, and that's about it. And for us, it take about 20 minutes.
Wow, that's
And,
it.
and yeah, that's about it. That's what our customer love about it. So you just give us the API keys and be done with it in 20 minutes.
So within 20 minutes, you can implement your product and it's going to segment the data, share with you what's like the high risk probability that you have to look at, make sure that you're taken care of, and basically you're up and running.
So within 20 minutes, you will be up and running. It will take a few hours for us to analyze the data. So the initial API connection allow us to get access to your data. So once we have access to your data, we still need to classify things and generate that risk report, and that will take a couple of hours for us to start generating risk assessment for enterprises so that understand like what risk they are facing. But it definitely not months like other traditional DLP solution.
Yeah. We're seeing so many different cultures around the world building technology and AI in particular, from, Asia to Europe to South America, Canada, the US. I was reading a report in Vietnam in particular, where there was a lot of early education around AI and getting really students at the high school level or maybe even younger, like sort of up and running around AI and training on what it could be and how it could be useful. What did you have any insights about AI before it really hit like it has? And did you see any of this while you were also in Vietnam?
Do I see any of the culture aspect of the society that prioritize learning technologies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is a huge emphasis in Asian cultures. I don't know about European cultures. I was there for like a couple of months and year, but for Asian culture, for example, there is a strong emphasis in education in general. And there is a famous saying that if you do not study well, you're gonna go and be a farmer. Maybe in the context of Vietnam, it's a very hard life, right? Like it's rain and the sun is out there. It's just a
Right.
metaphor to say that your life is gonna be tough if you don't study well. So there's a strong culture in Asian cultures in general that's emphasized on education, and AI is like a kind of one of the new things, but
Mhm.
there are many other things in the past. It was IoT, uh, and a couple of years ago there was crypto technologies. So Asian cultures tend to emphasize on like studying the new technologies, and you could see that the Chinese managed to crack down the DeepSeek. That was amazing, uh,
Yeah.
very impressive. So there is a strong emphasis in early education, like what you said. Like they want to train their population as early as possible to adopt latest and greatest technologies. So that's what I've been seeing so far, and I think it's working well for now. Of course, every culture has its upside and downside, right? Like the other side of the coin is that it's very tough on the kids. So you can see
Yeah.
like, the Asian kids is very suffering in terms of education. So
I hear you. If you look at your company today, you've raised, I think, $3 million. Is that correct?
yeah, we raised about 3.2. Yeah,
Okay. How big is the company today in terms of employees?
we have about 10 employees right now that working with
Okay.
us. Yeah.
Very cool. And are you all local in the US or are you international as well?
Yeah, so our company is based out of San Jose. We do have employees in Europe as well. So it's a bit of mix. So it based on the team, right? Like the backend
Mhm.
engineering team is in San Jose because it's just easier to discuss. But the front end team is in Europe, and then the UX team is Eastern US. So it's a little
Got
bit
it.
different places.
Yeah, sounds pretty normal for these days. What's the biggest challenge as you bring your product into market that you're currently going through?
The biggest challenge in the market for us is that GenAI has a lot of hype and demands, but when it comes to adoption itself, especially for enterprises that are conservative, a lot of them take a cautious approach. In that they adopt. Let's say if you have 20,000 people company, but you want to use maybe 30 or like 100 or 200 licenses for Copilot and so on. So the biggest challenge for us is to identify the correct customers that are at scale and have the problems. Because if you have like just a couple of licenses or a couple of people in the company adopting Gen AI, and probably it's not a big problem yet. So that's the biggest challenge for us. And then the second challenge for us is actually hiring. And we get more customers, there is a need for us to move faster. And when we hire, last time it took us literally 6 months to get a hire in the Bay Area. And it's very acute here in the Bay Area. There's a lot of AI startup. There's a lot of money floating around to attract people. So the competition in the Bay is a little bit crazy when it comes to hiring. But like when you expand a little bit outside of the Bay Area, things got a little bit easier, especially if you expand internationally. That's a lot easier and cheaper as well. So I would say that's the second challenge for us, right? Which is hiring, right? Like as a startup, we always like find customers, build a team to deliver to that, and these are the two constant things that we have to do.
Yeah, it's a fine balance there. You got to know your pitch too really well so you can get people excited about what you're doing and it's easy to understand and they see the vision and the journey they want to be a part of. So there's a lot of storytelling that goes into hiring anybody, but it sounds like you're on a good path here. As you look into 2025, what's on the roadmap? What are you excited about?
As we look ahead to the toward the end of this year, I look forward to increasing the size of the teams as well as onboarding more customers. There's a lot of exciting things that we're building. We're building the pen testing bots. We are building the detection engines. We're building all of that. But it will be very exciting for us to uh, make these a lot better and we can support more tools. So right now we support Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini. We would want to support other tools like Clean, like there's so many tools like Perplexity want to go into this space. There is Movework we want to go to into this space, and everybody have a data security problems. We just don't have enough bandwidth to build right now. But looking forward to 2025, I want us as a company to grow up, have more people, more customers, and support more products so that we can increase the adoption of Gen AI tools across the enterprises. So that's what I really look for in this year.
Yeah, really cool. For potential buyers out there that are listening to the show, what's the business model? Is it a per seat license? Is it based on the data? What's the business model look like?
The business model is a seat license based on the number of licenses that you have for Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini, and we do the pricing based on that.
Gotcha. Pretty straightforward. Really cool. Well, James, I want to ask one last question. As you have built your company and you're continuing to evolve it, one of the questions always is as a company, it evolves, but also as a leader, you have to evolve. What's been an area that you felt like you have taken your own leadership to another level? And what specifically has been helpful that you've learned in the process of building your startup?
Yeah. So I'm an engineer by training. So it's really hard for me to, like what you said earlier, selling a story to your candidate to employees, but not just that, but also selling a story to customers and selling a story to investors. So that's had been my own personal journey to learn about like how to really motivate people, to make people understand your visions and actually buy in into that vision and then want to go with you, right? So that had been a personal journey for me because like I said, I study engineering, working most and mostly studying very technical work. I actually started as a CTO of a company and then switched to the CEO role and start the selling and storytelling and stuff like that.
Mm.
It's had been quite a journey for me. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing is, as a startup, you got to keep adopting, keep be flexible and adopt to the environment that you are in. And
Hmm.
we've been doing amazingly well on that front in adopting to different external factors, and that take a lot of growth mindset mentality, which I would say that's my number one takeaway from my MIT education is just to have a growth mindset. Always assume that you know less than you do, and always assume that other people can always teach you a lesson. So that's the mindset that is important, and I think that that mindset I was able to apply it here at Opsin, and that was really mind changing for me in terms of like really keep an open minded, learn from everybody, and so that the second thing that I learned as a leader and as the company grow up, I have to evolve. I have to learn sales, but the next thing will be have to learn about organization and stuff like that. So that's the second thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. Well, I'm excited to see how things go for you in the future here and with your company. If anybody wants to find Opsin, where do they go?
They could go to our website at opsinsecurity.com, or they can just look me up on LinkedIn and send me a message. Happy to talk with them, not just about Gen AI, but also about starting up a company, but also about what's the growth mindset. uh, so I'm very my personal philosophy is I try to be as helpful as possible in helping people because everyone need help, one way or another. And I think that if I could help people in any way, happy to do that. So feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, that's great. Sounds like a leader. I like that mindset of education and helping others and mentoring, and those are all great things to hear. So Opsin is OPSIN security.com, and James Pham you can find on LinkedIn. That's PHAM. James, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And for the listeners for listening, it means a lot to me. You spent your time with us today. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal. Excited to sign off and join you on the next episode. Until then, James, the world, take care. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to subscribe. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And follow us on YouTube, where we go behind the scenes to learn what it takes to be a startup founder.